The cold held onto Oakland County like it had a purpose. Even inside the neighborhoods that usually felt safe, parents sensed a tension in the air that winter, the kind that makes people look down a street twice before letting their kids walk it. On a gray February evening in 1976, 12-year-old Mark Stebbins left the American Legion Hall in Ferndale after running a small errand for his mother. The hall was warm and noisy when he stepped out, but the street outside was quiet, and the cold carried sound in a way that made distance feel longer. Mark wasn't the type to wander. He told his mother he would be home soon. He never made it back. When he failed to return, his family did what families always do first. They called friends. They checked nearby stores. They retraced his route. When those answers failed, police officers started gathering names, descriptions, and the last point anyone saw him. Mark was a responsible kid, level-headed and careful around strangers, but that gave investigators nothing to work with. The snow had fallen lightly the night he disappeared, leaving behind a surface that revealed almost no footprints and hid anything that might have passed through. For 4 days, the search widened while hope thinned. Then a businessman behind a Southfield shopping plaza found what looked like a small figure lying in the snow. It was Mark. He had been assaulted, suffocated, cleaned, and posed with a kind of deliberate calm that made the scene feel even colder. His death shook the county in a way that rippled through every household. Schools warned parents. Patrol cars lingered longer than usual near playgrounds. Kids walked in groups. Parents watched from windows. None of it eased the feeling that someone dangerous was standing just out of sight. 3 weeks later, on December 22nd, 12-year-old Jill Robinson from Royal Oak left home after a brief argument with her mother. Her bike carried her down streets she knew well. She disappeared somewhere between home and the boundary of the next neighborhood, leaving behind a trail of confusion no one could piece together. On December 26th, a police officer driving along Interstate 75 spotted a body near an exit ramp. It was Jill. She had been shot in the face, and like Mark, her body had been positioned with an unsettling sense of care, as though someone wanted her found under controlled conditions, not hidden. Detectives from different departments gathered in cramped offices comparing details, behaviors, and timelines. They noticed how the bodies were cleaned, how the killer seemed to take his time, how he returned each victim to a visible location where they would be discovered quickly. Nothing about the pattern felt impulsive. It felt practiced. But the scenes offered almost nothing for investigators to hold on to. No fingerprints, no usable fibers, no tire tracks that could be traced. Just the strange contrast between cruelty and meticulous preparation. On January 2nd, 1977, 10-year-old Christine Mihalik left home in Berkeley to buy a magazine at a nearby drugstore. The walk was short, barely enough distance for a parent to worry under normal circumstances. She had made the trip before. She did not come back. Officers searched the route immediately, interviewing shop employees, neighbors, and passers-by. No one had seen a struggle. No one remembered a suspicious car. For 19 days, her disappearance weighed on the entire county. Then, a mail carrier driving through Franklin Village spotted what he thought was a mannequin in the snow. It wasn't. Christine had been washed, dressed, and left on display like the others. By that point, police chiefs across Oakland County knew the cases were connected. They built a task force, a massive joint operation combining local departments, Michigan State Police, and the FBI. The media named the suspect the Oakland County Child Killer, and the phrase hit parents with the kind of force that changes a community's identity overnight. The task force worked out of a shared space, walls covered with timelines, maps, potential witnesses, and vehicle descriptions. Detectives reviewed thousands of tips a week. Some came from frightened parents. Some came from people convinced they saw something at the edge of their memory. Some came from individuals trying to place enemies on the suspect list. Officers methodically followed them all. In March, the killer struck again. 11-year-old Timothy King left his Birmingham home to buy candy and promised his mother he would be right back. He rode his skateboard toward the local drugstore. That skateboard was found shortly after, but Timothy was not. Search teams mobilized immediately. Volunteers fanned out with flashlights. Helicopters scanned fields. Officers checked abandoned houses and wooded areas. Strangers offered tips that led nowhere. Witnesses thought they saw a boy talking to a man near a blue car, but the description changed with every interview. 6 days later, Timothy's body was found in a shallow ditch in Livonia. He had been abused, suffocated, and posed like the others. But one detail shook the investigation. He had been fed fried chicken before his death. His mother had said in a public plea that she hoped someone was giving him warm food. The killer had been watching. He answered her through the boy's body. The task force began to collapse under the weight of the investigation. Leads poured in faster than detectives could process them. They investigated convicted offenders, drifters, known predators, neighbors, and men who owned cars similar to the description circulating in the press. A man with a blue gremlin was questioned heavily. Another man resembled the composite sketch almost perfectly. Each time investigators pushed, alibis held, or evidence fell apart. Some suspects seemed promising. None matched fully. As months turned to years, the case grew colder but never quiet. New detectives rotated into the task force and studied every detail, but the killer's methods, cleaning the victims, holding them for days, leaving no forensic trace, kept the case locked. Theories grew in volume and variety. Some officers believed the killer acted alone. Others believed he was part of a group connected to child exploitation networks. Some thought he lived within the very neighborhoods he hunted, hiding behind a normal life. Families of the victims lived with a silence that never softened. They attended hearings and meetings, answered questions that reopened wounds, and watched time move while their cases stalled. Parents spoke out publicly because staying quiet felt worse. They pushed for more resources, more forensic testing, more attention. Detectives who eventually retired admitted privately that the case stayed with them in ways no other investigation had. The images, the patterns, the failures, all of it stayed sharp. The Oakland County Child Killer case became a permanent scar on Michigan's history. It changed how parents watched their children, how officers handled missing person cases, and how communities looked at strangers. 4 children were taken, held, murdered, and returned with a precision that suggested the killer wanted his control to be unmistakable. Decades later, despite new forensic tools and renewed interest, the case remained unsolved, a reminder of how someone capable of extreme harm can move through ordinary neighborhoods undetected, even under one of the largest manhunts the state had ever launched. Thank you for listening to Homicide Files. Subscribe for more true crime stories.